Hey, 16-bit Zen here with a review and comparisons of Sega Saturn controllers. And I'm talking about the original build controller that they launched in Japan in 1994 with the Sega Saturn system. I'm not going to really talk about the Model 1. It's kind of a reject controller. The Sega of America launched it 6 months later, and they phased it out quite quickly with what some people call Model 2. And I'm just going to refer to Model 1 as Model Reject. I just don't even care about it. It's just a terrible controller as far as I'm concerned. I tire of demands for clarification on that, though. I mean, nobody talks about the great Saturn controller and references the Model 1 controller. It's always Model 2. Come on. So this is my favorite controller of all time. Not just my favorite retro controller, it's my favorite controller of all time. And let's just go back to the basics, and it's based on the Genesis 6-button controller, which was the revision controller Sega did. Not that the first controller was bad, but this is a D-pad improvement. It's exactly the same build as the Saturn D-pad, same 6-button layout. They added a shoulder button, altered the ergonomics. It's a fantastic controller as well, but the Saturn controller is a little bit of an upgrade from that. So a big part of the reason why this is my favorite controller is the D-pad. It's just a lot more responsive than almost any other controller I've ever played with. If you play a lot of shoot-'em-ups, shmups, or fighting games, that becomes quickly obvious that this is just a fantastic controller. I could play a shoot-'em-up game for a few hours and have very little cramping. I go play on a different controller, PlayStation controller or something else, and you know, you get a bit of cramping after a while. So let's talk about the variations. We've got the original, and then we've got the USB controllers, and then we've got the PlayStation variants. And these are all genuine Sega manufactured controllers. And the USB ones and the PlayStation ones all have the SLS, Sega Logistic Services logos on the back. That's an easy way to tell if they're genuine. The Play Sega one, actually, that was for playing games on Sega's website, I think they were flash-based. Sega actually distributed these as well. They have just an FCC sticker on the back. So the USB controllers came in a box such as this, and there's the SLS logo. Oh, it's on the front as well, SLS logo. And the PlayStation variants came in boxes like these, and matching color schemes on the back. There were a lot of different colors for all of these, actually. There was a special edition Darkstalkers version for the PlayStation variant as well. So I don't know a lot about knockoffs. I've just heard a lot of mixed information about knockoffs for the USB controllers. I can't speak on that. I've heard some of them are terrible and some of them are great. But I don't know which ones, so I'm not even going to go into that. There is one difference I noticed between the PlayStation USB controllers versus the original, and that is the shoulder buttons have a bit of a deeper click on them. A little bit of a lighter click here. You might play on these ones a lot and then go back to this one and accidentally hit a shoulder button. Then you also have the select button on the PlayStation variant as well, of course. And if you use a PS2 to PS3 controller adapter, they will actually work just fine on the PS3. And you can also use the USB controllers on the PS3 as well. But there is a catch to that. If you have a game that requires a select button, it won't actually work because it'll work, but you won't be able to use the select button. So if the game requires that, then you're pretty much SOL. But the PS3 registers the Saturn USB controllers as a generic controller. Anything with analog or motion control, of course, will not work. Select button will not work. There's a lot of download games and retro type of games, though, that you could play with it. But I love this controller so much that I take things a step further, and the PlayStation controller is such a wide-reaching controller that there's a lot of PlayStation to other system controller adapters. So what I do is I went to Tototek.com and I ordered all of these PlayStation 2, this one is Super Famicom or Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx-16, PC Engine, Neo Geo. It converts PlayStation controllers to those platforms, which gives me compatibility, and it almost always works. I've never really found incompatibility issues with these things. And then I also take it even a step further, and I use a retro USB Super Nintendo to GameCube and Wii controller adapter, which I put the PlayStation controller through the Super Nintendo adapter, feed it through there, works on my GameCube, works on Wii for a lot of games. I also use a Total Control 3 adapter to play an original Saturn controller on the Dreamcast. I use a PlayStation 2 to Xbox 360 adapter. I got this with my X-Arcade game. I also use a PlayStation 2 to Xbox 360 controller adapter that I got through X-Arcade when I bought my tank stick. These are a little pricey though. I hate to link to them in the bottom. I've linked to Tototek, by the way. But they're a little bit pricey, so be warned about that. But the great thing about this is that it gives me full compatibility of this controller on all of my 360 shooting or shoot 'em up library, which is pretty impressive. So. There's also a wireless Saturn controller that was released in Japan, and the build is mostly the same, a few ergonomical changes, but it feels mostly the same. I don't have one. It's just an issue where I don't want to be dealing with a lot of wireless controllers, recharging batteries and all that for a lot of systems. For a few systems it's no big deal, but as new generations come out, that's a lot of recharging and dead batteries, and it becomes a bit of a hassle. So yeah, that's about it for what's easily my favorite controller of all time. Someday when transhumanism arrives, I'm going to accessorize with one of these hardwired into me, and I can just play my retro games in my mind's eye anytime, any place with my favorite controller. That'll be awesome. So I'm just launching this YouTube channel and just getting some videos up and going, and looking forward to continuing this. And hope you guys watch, hope you like what you see, and subscribe. Hope this was informative. Have a good one.